avocados and olives and coconut and grass-fed butter and ghee and MCT oils and pasture-raised eggs. I mean, how hard is it to, when you're buying eggs, and I know your dollar counts, and I know you're standing there in front of the eggs and looking at, but this carton is cheapest. At the end of the year, if you bought the pasture-raised eggs every time, you're probably only spending at the end of a year, for as many times as you buy eggs, maybe $20 to $40 more at the end of the year for eggs. I mean, it's not that big.
Welcome to the PEMF Effect, where breakthrough science helps take control of your health. I'm Dr. William Pollack, and I'm here to guide you in tapping into the power of PEMF therapy for recovery, vitality, and total body wellness. From overcoming chronic pain, optimizing brain health, boosting energy, and aging with strength, this podcast is your path to cutting-edge solutions for lifelong well-being. If you're ready to move beyond symptom management and tap into your body's natural healing ability, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Today's episode was previously recorded on the Pain Solutions Summit that I hosted. This is Dr. Pollack. Today I have a wonderful special guest, very amicable and bubbly person who is going to tell us all about herself. So this session is about mitochondrial function. And I'm introducing you now to Laura Frontiero to tell us about herself first, and then we'll dig into the topic on mitochondrial function. Laura.
Hi, Dr. Pollack. Hi, great to be here. Boy, do we have fun when we get together. This is going to be a good one.
I look forward to it.
Yes, sir. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am a Western medicine trained nurse practitioner, and I spent many years actually working in preventive medicine to begin with. And it wasn't until 20 years into my career that I learned about functional medicine, integrative medicine, other ways to help people heal their bodies. And what I realized looking back at my career is preventive medicine in Western medicine was really more about early detection, not really about prevention. So you think about that. We talk about prevention in a Western perspective as being breast cancer screening, colon cancer screening, prostate cancer screening. Think about that. It's a screening for early detection. It's not actually preventing the problem in the first place. And the extent to which we prevent problems is pretty minimal because we don't really focus on nutrition. And when we do focus on it, we're not actually giving the best advice. So an example would be for people with diabetes, we say use artificial sweetener instead of sugar so you don't spike your blood sugar, but that's a host of chemicals and toxins that you're putting in your body and causing all kinds of problems. So after 20 years of being in the Western model, I found functional medicine. And this is where I live now. This is where I love to be, to help people heal their bodies and truly prevent chronic health conditions. So I'm excited to talk about mitochondria. I have a little bit of an obsession with them because in my training in functional medicine, one of my mentors that I studied with really loved mitochondria. And I learned that without supporting mitochondria health, all the things that I'm trying to do to help people heal their inflammation and their chronic health conditions and their gut health and, live longer, vibrant, wonderful lives, it can't happen unless we support mitochondrial health. So here we are today talking about mitochondria. And I'll say that when I was a kid, and we all had to take biology class to get out of high school, right? So if you remember biology class, the moment that teacher started talking about mitochondria and the Krebs cycle and ATP energy production was the moment that most of us check out because it's really boring stuff. So my goal is to make this fun and interesting and speak in stories and analogies and make it not boring, because biology really, I didn't love it when I was a kid. Love it now, not so much back then. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, fantastic. So now you're a mitochondrial expert.
Yep.
And we appreciate your expertise on our summit as well. Well, okay, so mitochondria. Let's assume that people listening know nothing about mitochondria.
Yep.
So what are mitochondria? Are you tired of living with chronic pain? Medication only masks the symptoms, but real healing starts at the cellular level. I'm Dr. William Pollack, the leading expert on PEMF therapy. Pulsed electromagnetic field therapy is a science-backed, drug-free solution that helps reduce pain, speed up recovery, and improve overall health, right from the comfort of your home. Take advantage of an exclusive 10% discount on drpollack.com PEMF systems. Visit drpollack.com, that's drpawluk.com, to register and claim your savings. This limited time offer is available only to registered listeners. Don't miss your chance to experience the benefits. Terms and conditions do apply. Don't just manage pain, transform your health. Visit drpollack.com today and let's get started on your healing journey together.
Yeah, so I like to talk about mitochondria in really simple terms, but the overall concept that you get to understand here is that think of mitochondria like your life force. And we call them the powerhouse of your cells because they make 90% of energy in the body. And we can dig into that and what that means. I personally like to think about energy in two ways. I like to think about it like physical energy, the kind that we feel throughout the day. Like, do you, in the mid-afternoon, do you have a slump and lose your energy, or do you feel energy to last you through the day until it's time to wind down and go to bed? And then there's this invisible energy that's happening in our body, and that's the kind that we don't notice. So that's like cellular energy. It's required for gut healing and restoring and immune support and making your heart beat and your lungs work and your brain function and your nerves fire. That's invisible. We don't know that's happening. So mitochondria are responsible for all of that. Now, and they're responsible for a lot of other things that we can get into talking about as well. But first, let's talk about what these little guys are anyway. These little teeny tiny microscopic organelles that live inside of our cells by sometimes the thousands inside of a cell. They're so small. And so to help you understand these guys, I like to compare them to houseplants. So bear with me. So with houseplants and mitochondria, we like to think about location, living conditions, and function. So those three things: location, living conditions, and function. So in terms of location, let's think about a houseplant and then relate it to a mitochondria. So a houseplant, it lives in your house, right? They live inside of a room in your house and usually on a specific location. So a houseplant will live on a windowsill or sitting on a shelf or maybe inside or hanging from a hanging device. Well, mitochondria similarly live in a certain spot. They live on an inside of an individual cell. And that might be a brain cell, a liver cell, a kidney cell, a heart cell, a muscle cell, and so on. So now you have that kind of microscopic location. Now that location is inside of a bigger structure. So it's in the living room or the dining room or your bedroom, just like the mitochondria are inside of the kidney, the liver, the heart. So a bit of a bigger space. And that is housed on an even bigger level inside of the walls of your home. So think of that like your body, you being the house of where all these things happen. So we just get down on the granular level of thinking how small a mitochondria is. Now, living conditions are important. So given the right conditions, your mitochondria will thrive and grow, and they'll even reproduce. And guess what? So do houseplants as well. So for those of you who don't have a green thumb, you know that houseplants are fragile and mitochondria are also fragile. If you withhold what they need, they will die or they will malfunction. And houseplants are the same. They die, they limp along, they don't look so good. They need the same thing. Mitochondria and houseplants need clean water, sunlight, nutrition, and they need you to be nice to them. So studies show if you talk negative to your houseplants, they're more likely to have stunted growth. Actually, people have studied this, and it's the same for your mitochondria. A stressful and negative life will yield lower mitochondrial function. And then the final concept here is just function. What's the function of the mitochondria? What's a function of a houseplant? Because a houseplant does have a function. They create life-giving oxygen, houseplants do, and they help remove toxins from the air. In fact, you can use houseplants to clean and purify your air. Put a whole bunch of houseplants and you may get a similar effect of bringing in an air purifier. And houseplants are much less expensive and they're beautiful. And it's the way nature intended the air to be cleaned. Well, guess what? Your mitochondria, very similarly to houseplants, they create life-giving ATP energy. And they also assist your detox pathways to keep you flushed of toxins, plus a whole bunch of other things. So there, Dr. Pollack, is my very simple explanation of mitochondria and how they live and work and how fragile they are. We really have to be good to them.
Well, I don't know if anybody's interested, but I've always found it interesting. Where do these things come from, mitochondria?
Your body was designed to heal, but illness, chronic disease, stress, injury, and time can slow that process down. What if you could restore your body's natural ability to recover, recharge, and feel its best? The key to healing is giving your body the energy to repair itself. PEMF therapy does exactly that. Recharging your cells, improving circulation, reducing inflammation, and helping you function at your best. For decades, I've studied this technology, worked with hundreds of medical professionals, and helped thousands of people reduce pain, regain energy, and take control of their health. However, not all PEMF devices are created equal. No one size fits all. We offer personalized consultations so you can find the right device for your needs, backed by real science and trusted results. If you're ready for a real solution, let's talk. Schedule a consultation at drpollack.com. That's drpawluk.com, because real healing starts at the cellular level.
Well, they actually come from our maternal DNA. So they're being passed down from your mother to mother to mother. They're very old DNA and it's part of our genetics. So it's really important as me as a mother and anybody watching, a female, that you do everything you can right now in your reproductive age to pass on healthy mitochondria to your offspring. This is really important.
Well, yeah, that's very interesting, and in fact, that's critical during pregnancy. And
yeah.
So many women get pregnant, don't even know they're pregnant, and they don't know how to deal with pregnancy, right? They don't know how to take care of themselves anyway, right? So often the first pregnancy is a challenge. Talk about stress as well.
Yeah.
But mitochondrial genes come from what?
So mitochondrial genes, they come, well, you're stumping me. Where are we going with this?
Bacteria.
Ah, yes, sir. Bacteria.
Right?
Yeah, they do
and
come.
When you look at it under electron microscopes, a mitochondria looks like a bacterium.
Yep.
Right?
A very ancient bacteria. Yes.
So they are commensal with us. I mean, we totally depend on this. So somewhere in the evolution of the human, the species, we incorporated mitochondria, just like we incorporate bacteria and viruses in our bodies, just like we have a microbiome. And that's going to lead to the next point that you're going to make.
Yes.
Just like we need a microbiome, we need those bacteria because they have functions in our bodies. We tend to think of bacteria as being bad, right? Actually, most bacteria are not bad.
Yes.
Our bodies control them. They become bad because we haven't developed the proper controls.
Yes.
So go to your next point.
Yeah, so let's talk about the function of mitochondria. So we understand where they come from and where they live in our bodies and that they're fragile. They're very powerful. As fragile as they are quite powerful. And there's many, many functions of mitochondria, but three main functions that I like to outline for you would be cellular respiration, energy, ATP production, and then there's this whole concept of the cell danger response. And after we talk about this, we're going to get into the importance of PEMF as one of the ways that we help maintain mitochondrial health as well. It's a vital part. So in terms of these three processes, cellular respiration, think of this like your cells having a biochemical process And similar, a good way to think about it is similarly to when you breathe, oxygen goes into your lungs, it's moved throughout your body by the bloodstream to your cells, where then the mitochondria use the oxygen, and then carbon dioxide is released from the cells and moved back through your bloodstream to the lungs and exhaled. Well, your cells also have their own biochemical process inside that occur to move waste out of the cell, to move what needs to be utilized by the cell for whatever the purpose of that cell is. Is it a heart cell? Is it a brain cell? Is it a muscle cell? Mitochondria are responsible for that cellular respiration, kind of the movement of things coming into the cell and out of the cell. And then there's this whole concept of energy ATP production. So this is the big one. When people think about mitochondria, they think about ATP. That is a unit of energy that's produced in something, that's produced through something called the Krebs cycle. And then there's this intercellular energy transfer, and energy is stored as a chemical bond in the ATP molecule, and it's released when the bonds are broken. So that's a whole big complex thing to think about. But an easy way to think about this is ATP energy is like a currency, almost like the US dollar, for example. You have to trade dollars to get what you need, to get food, to pay your mortgage, to have a car. Well, similarly, in your body, you have to trade ATP for everything you do. So just for the example of moving my little finger, there is a cost to that in ATP. It's a different cost if I were to get up and walk across the room and go out the door. There's a cost to every breath I take, to my heart beating. And so you have this bank account of ATP and you're drawing on it. You're paying for all of these functions in the body. And as such, you must continually replenish that bank account. You must continually put ATP, these units of energy, back in. And that's what the mitochondria do. They make sure that you have that bank account, that currency, so you can spend everything that your body needs to function. And then the third thing that I want to highlight is the cell danger response. So mitochondria have this other critical role in cell defense and in defending your body against a threat. And they can actually detect the presence of things like infection or inflammation or immune overactivation, and the presence of toxins, which we talk a lot about toxins as causing a problem for mitochondria. Well, mitochondria create an immune system response so that those threats, and then they actually, believe it or not, decrease energy production when that happens. It's wild. So if you think about when you're sick and you get really tired and all you want to do is sleep. Well, one of the reasons that that's happening is because mitochondria are actually slowing down the production of ATP, because the invader that's in your body, the virus, the bacteria, whatever it is, it's going to use that ATP so it can be stronger and reproduce. And your mitochondria don't want them to take that energy, so it tamps down. It's kind of the same concept of why when your body launches a fever, we should let it do its thing, because a fever is going to help kill bacteria or virus. And it makes us uncomfortable, yes, but it's actually a vital role of the body healing itself. Well, energy decrease when you're sick is also one of those vital roles. So cell danger response is something that mitochondria do to protect us. So next time you get sick and you're exhausted and you're frustrated about it, think about those mitochondria doing their job. That's actually part of the critical role. So those are kind of the three big ones when we think about mitochondria. Mitochondria do all kinds of things. They promote cell growth and multiplication. They're responsible for cell death and cleaning out old cells that shouldn't be there anymore. They generate oxidative radicals, free radicals, or reactive oxygen species, which in large amounts can be harmful to us, but in small amounts, they actually have a helpful effect on the body. It's important to have that. They support nervous system function. They help us produce heat, so keep you warm through non-shivering thermogenesis. They are organs of metabolism. They synthesize biomolecules. I mean, you can't survive without mitochondria. So for the rest of this talk, I really want to give you an idea of how important they are, right? But for the rest of the talk, let's talk about mitochondria health and chronic health problems and what we do to fix it. So I just pause there, Bill, and have you put in your 2 cents here.
Well, I think, well, thank you for allowing me to put in my 2 cents.
Yeah. Yes.
The picture that I'm getting, the body is a homeostatic mechanism. Homeostasis means balance. So on the one hand, when you're sick, you need more energy to be able to help to defend you against whatever the invasion is.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that there's a cost to that, but there's also a risk of overdoing it. So you don't want to overdo it to feed the bacteria or viruses or whatever. On the other hand, you also have to guard against depletion. So if you're constantly producing ATP,
Yeah.
is there a big bank of ATP in the body?
Well, there is a bank of ATP, but there's so many factors that are going to influence how much of that you can produce. And so you definitely want to support everything you can to support ATP production.
So clearly it's making up for what you may lose. So every beat of the heart, every beat, the heart has to produce ATP to make that beat.
Yep.
And then between beats, it has to replenish the ATP.
Yep.
Right? So if your heart's racing really fast, right, then it's using up more ATP, more energy. And again, you're going to have to spend extra time to repair and recover.
Absolutely.
That's why wounds and surgery and infections, all of these require us to have downtime. So we're not using extra ATP. So in other words, don't run a marathon when you have a fever.
No.
And this is
what people do too. They are sick and they want to push themselves. I got to get my workout in. It's going to help me get better. And you actually might be causing a delay in healing and a lot more stress on your body.
Right. So ATP management, ATP resource management is a critical part of what we do as well.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So go on. The next important aspect and why you what you do to try to maintain ATP.
Yeah. So in terms of maintaining mitochondria, restoring mitochondrial function, some pretty common sense things to begin with, things that are really easy to do not cost a lot of money. And that is, first off, nutrition. So we got to eat anyway. You're going to eat every day, multiple times a day. So make it worth it. Eat a nutrient-rich diet and really eliminate things like refined sugar and processed grains and bad fats and artificial ingredients. I used the example in the beginning about the person with diabetes being told to use artificial sweeteners, which just makes no sense. Right.
Artificial.
Artificial sweetener. I mean, it says it right there in the name of it. Eat greens and vegetables and herbs and fruits and nuts and seeds and legumes and whole grains. I mean, really eat a variety of food. Eat healthy fats. So avocados and olives and coconut and grass-fed butter and ghee and MCT oils and pasture-raised eggs. I mean, how hard is it when you're buying eggs, and I know your dollar counts, and I know you're standing there in front of the eggs and looking at, but this carton is cheapest. At the end of the year, if you bought the pasture-raised eggs every time, you're probably only spending at the end of a year, for as many times as you buy eggs, maybe $20 to $40 more at the end of the year for eggs. I mean, it's not that big when you think about the price for your health, right? So eat clean protein. It matters when you're eating grass-fed, wild-caught, pasture-raised, all of those things you're looking for in the meat that you eat. And organ meats, here's another one. Organ meats are full of mitochondria and nutrients that are so good for us. So liver, kidneys, heart, tongue, brain, bones. I mean, it sounds awful, but if you can bring this in, it's so nourishing. Now, some other things you can do that don't cost you a thing to fix your mitochondria and to manage ATP production. So intermittent fasting. So when you're fasting, damaged mitochondria are purged through something called autophagy. The process allows the mitochondria to remove damaged debris, accumulated reactive oxygen and nitrogen species, and it helps clean us out. So fasting can be simple. It can just be close the kitchen at 6 o'clock at night. Do not go back in there. Do not eat anything else. Make sure you're not eating at least 3 hours before bed, and don't open the kitchen again until 11 o'clock noon. So for me, I've got my black coffee here. I've not broken my fast yet today. So I've had black coffee since I woke up. Kitchen closed last night at 6. And after we're done with this interview, I'll finally have something to eat. And so that was super easy for me. And in the beginning, it might feel kind of squirmy to do it, but you get used to it and then you feel great.
Now, a 12-hour fast is good. So what you're doing is more like an 18-hour fast.
Yeah, well, I've worked towards that. Yeah.
Right, but fasting from 6 p.m. until 6 o'clock in the morning, that's a 12-hour fast.
Anybody can do that.
That's why we call it break fast, breakfast, right?
And that's good for your mitochondria. So the thing is, the problem is we go into our kitchens at 9 or 10 o'clock at night wanting a snack before we go to bed. And now you've destroyed that window, that 12-hour.
And whatever causes you to have that need to go to the kitchen at night, there's lots of reasons for that too.
There's something to work on that. Yeah. So then something else you can do is you can move your body. So studies show that you get a 50 to 80% increase in mitochondrial capacity when you exercise with interval training. So you don't have to go to the gym and do an hour workout. You can get up in the middle of your workday and just take a quick brisk walk, or, lift some light weights. And you can do that multiple times throughout the day, and you can really support mitochondrial health. It's free. It's just a matter of setting up a routine and a habit to do it.
So what you're doing is putting a demand on your mitochondria, right?
Yes.
You do that. You're putting a demand on it, which means that they can no longer be lazy. Now they have to go to work. Yes, exactly. And then sleep. Good sleep helps your mitochondria work better. So we know that anything less than 7 hours per night decreases the amount of mitochondrial DNA in the blood, and it causes poor cellular function. So sleep 7 to 8 hours a night and get a sleep-wake cycle routine schedule going so that you stick to it. And then sunlight. Sunlight is so important. I mentioned that our mitochondria are like houseplants, and it's important that within the first, hour of waking up that you get your eyeballs on the daylight. Even if it's overcast, it's okay. Use your circadian rhythm to your advantage. Be in the daylight. It's also important at the end of the day to watch the light change as the sun goes down. And this can create wonderful habits of a morning routine. I like to go out on my patio, read in the morning for 20 minutes or so, right out there in the morning light. And then at the end of the day, when you're winding down, you can utilize that, evening light to spend time with your loved ones, do something as a family or with your partner, or, take that unwinding time. And it's really good for your mitochondria. And then that brings us to devices and things. Let's not go to devices yet.
Okay.
Let's talk about stress and mitochondria.
Oh, yeah. Stress is a huge one. So stress, so chronic stress, increased inflammation, it increases inflammation, it reduces your immune function, it increases fatigue. And so strategies to reduce stress include breathing, meditation, mind work therapy, journaling, hobbies, time in nature, yoga, anything uplifting. And I know there's stressors that are not going to go away. I get it. I mean, we live in a fast-paced world. I'm a business owner. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I've got stress that's not going to go away. The stress that kills me right now, I get emails from my daughter's school on the regular about her homework, her tests, she got she missed points on this or that. Those are little shards of stress that hit me every day. I'm like, oh gosh, she failed this test. Is she ever going to get into college? I mean, these are the silly things that are hitting us all the time. And so managing your mind over that and being in mindfulness and allowing yourself to shift quickly from those stressors. Stress is absolutely a toxin. So when we think about toxins from the environment, toxins from infections, toxins from the food we eat, stress is a toxin. And if you do not manage the stress piece, if you do not reduce the stress piece, you could do everything else perfect. You could eat perfect. You could sleep. You could do all the things. Stress is going to be that thing that undermines your success every time.
Now I know we're going to go to devices. We'll hold on to that. So the audience is going to remind us, don't forget to go to devices.
Okay.
There's genetics, right? also involved, what you inherit in terms of your capacity to have efficient mitochondria. There is autoimmune. So these days you hear more and more and more about mitochondrial disorders. So what's probably the most common mitochondrial cause of mitochondrial dysfunction today?
Oh, I would say toxins.
Besides stress.
Toxins. I would say environmental toxins and all the environmental chemicals, the toxins coming in our food, the air we breathe, the products that we put on our skin, our cleaning products, the plastic that we're inhaling, that we're eating, that we're absorbing through our skin. So toxins are huge. Toxins and infections.
So we can add, again, if you do everything right, but you're still loading with toxins. Right? And if you look at all of the cosmetic stuff that we use, even our shampoos get absorbed into our skin and into our bodies, and they create havoc with the mitochondria and just cellular function in general, right? So eliminating toxins as much as possible. And there are going to be components of the summit that will also talk about toxicity, environmental.
So important. It's so important. And I would say for anyone here working with practitioners, your practitioner must have a way for you to reduce toxic load in the body, to remove toxins from the cells. It's so vital for restoring your health, because your mitochondria will not function properly if those toxins are not addressed. And of course, it's removing the source of toxins as well, but we have stored toxins that need to come out also.
Yeah, and that's hard. Some of those toxins are very hard to get out, and it's a lifetime process. And these days, babies born today are born with over 200 toxins in their bodies.
So sad.
So you're getting it from mother who wasn't aware over a lifetime up to the time of pregnancy, and then from then on, the children are still going to be continually exposed.
Yeah.
All right. So before we go to devices, let's talk about the gut.
Okay. So gut microbiome, this is my happy place. So I think everyone can agree that all the food that we eat, it first goes straight into your digestive tract. And in order for mitochondria to survive, to do their job, they need nutrients. And that comes from the food that we eat primarily. So your gut is where food is digested. It's broken down into smaller parts, so your body can then utilize all the nutrients. But here's the thing. Your body can't do any of it without the help of your microbiome. It's made up of three main things: the community of bacteria that live inside of us, plus the immune and the neurological axis that regulate everything and help it communicate with our body. So your mitochondria are actually stimulators of the same immune and neurological symptoms that interact with your gut. So for example, when we get food poisoning, the communication back and forth between the mitochondria and the microbiota, the bacteria that regulate the body's immune system response, is critical. There's, two different sets of organisms in your gut, the bacteria and the mitochondria, which we've also established come from bacteria. They're communicating back and forth to keep everything going smooth and healthy. So what goes wrong here is, first off, dysbiosis, gut imbalance. It drives inflammation. So we were just talking about all these toxins that come into the body, and this is one of the main drivers of dysbiosis and gut imbalance. And then you have this overgrowth of disease-causing pathogenic bacteria. Inflammation increases, and this is damaging to mitochondria. So when we think about the number one damaging thing to mitochondria, inflammation, when we think about underneath that, what's driving the inflammation, what's causing it, toxins. So inflammation and toxins, you can't really talk about them one without the other. And so really, it's vital that in order to support mitochondrial health, you must support gut health as well, because the most up-to-date research shows that the thing that affects mitochondria the most is uncontrolled inflammation. And the thing that's driving that for a lot of people is leaky gut, dysbiosis, because that barrier, so your gastrointestinal tract, your digestive tract, is actually an open system. So from your mouth all the way through to the rectum to the end, it's actually a big hollow tube that goes all the way through your body. And so that is being impaired when you have leaky gut. That tube that's supposed to only allow healthy nutrients through is now allowing toxins that we're ingesting to get into the bloodstream and into the body. So there's that connection between gut health. What I would say is you can't fix one without the other. You must address gut health when you're addressing mitochondria support as well. It's vital.
And how do you do that?
Well, with first off, those things that we talked about in terms of eating healthy food and eliminating toxins, you want to remove the infections, you want to remove the toxins, and then you want to support the body to rebuild that delicate gut lining that's been compromised. And you can do that with supplements, you can do that with nutrients, and you need stress reduction in there. And you can also do it with the support of electromagnetic fields as well. Devices, yes.
We're going to hold on to devices. We got to hold on to devices.
Yes. So here we go back to devices.
Well, let's not go there yet.
Okay, where else are we going?
So, so the next place I would go to, there is no mitochondrial organ. There's no pancreas that produces mitochondria. There's no heart that pumps mitochondria through the body. Right? There's no liver that makes mitochondria. All these organs make their own mitochondria, but how do mitochondria get into the circulation? How do mitochondria actually spread beyond an organ, or do they?
Well, mitochondria, every organ has its unique mitochondria that are specific to it. So for example, the liver mitochondria are really good at supporting detoxification, and the heart mitochondria are really geared towards that heart electrical system, conduction and pumping system. And so mitochondria actually reproduce in the place that they are at. So liver mitochondria make liver mitochondria, and heart mitochondria make heart mitochondria. So for example, a liver mitochondria is not suited to support the brain. The mitochondria are in their space, kind of like how those houseplants, you've got a houseplant that is suited for the bathroom. It wants a moist, damp, hopefully sunlit, hopefully you got a window in your bathroom environment, and that's where it likes to be. And then you've got the kind of mitochondria that might do better in a shady, darker place, like the bedroom maybe, that spends a lot of time in the dark. So mitochondria are unique to certain parts of the body.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is that mitochondria, it's not like the pancreas, which produces insulin, and the insulin then goes into the circulation and then goes throughout the whole body.
Yep.
That doesn't happen to mitochondria.
Not the same.
It's not the same thing. So every organ is individual for that. Which organ of the body makes the most ATP?
Well, the brain. So your brain is like command central. So it requires the most ATP.
Which organ has the most mitochondria per cubic centimeter?
So I've heard debate on this. I have heard ovaries, and I've also heard brain. What is your thought on this?
Actually, brain is high, but it's not the highest.
Yeah. So what is the highest?
The liver.
The liver. Yeah. So it's funny, depending on what specialist I talk to, I get different opinions on this. So I'm sure you have some science to back this up, Bill.
Yeah, there are some studies. I was reading about it when I was preparing for my heart failure blog. That's one of the questions I asked myself: which organs have the most mitochondria? Because I assumed the brain, because it's constantly going. But the other organ that's constantly going, has a constant demand for ATP, is the heart. Right. So I was surprised.
Yeah.
No, it's the liver. Because the liver, if you think about it, we don't see it. We don't thump, thump, thump. We don't feel it. We don't think it. But it is there in the background working absolutely constantly. It doesn't take a breath.
Yeah, and I'm sure the brain doesn't take a breath either. So that's surprising to me.
But the brain is not as big as the liver.
Yeah, true.
Right? So it's not just a matter of density, it's a matter of size as well. Okay, we can't avoid this anymore.
Devices.
So let's go to devices.
Okay, this is your zone of genius, so we're going to rely on you, but I do have one of your devices here to share because I love it.
Yes, go ahead.
So we've got one of your, this is the Flex Pulse, and this delivers 200 Gauss with both of these little guys stacked together. And this is actually a really important piece when you're doing all the nutrition and the stress reduction, and you're doing the intermittent fasting, and you're moving your body and exercising, and you're reducing toxins, and you're hydrating, and all of these pieces. You can significantly improve the speed and the rate at which you heal and support mitochondria with electromagnetic fields therapy. In fact, we were just talking before we started this interview today that without electromagnetic field, the Earth's electromagnetic field, we would really cease to exist. Mitochondria would die. And I want you to go in deep on how this works, Bill, because this is your expertise, but this is a game changer for people. It helps not only with boosting your immune system and supporting detoxification, it helps with reducing pain. It helps with faster cellular reproduction. I mean, from what I've learned about PEMF from you, I feel like I want to be hooked up to one 24/7.
Well, we are.
Yep.
It's called the planet.
Yep.
Right? And the more we're in motion on the planet, the more charge we create in our bodies. So creating charge in the body is not just a matter of muscle movement. Creating charge is crossing over field lines of the magnetic fields of the Earth. Anytime magnetic field lines cross with the body, they stimulate charge production in the body as well. It's very weak, but you're still doing the same thing. So that's why movement becomes really important.
Yeah.
Preferably moving horizontally across the field lines. So when you're perpendicular to the Earth's field lines, you're going to create more energy than if you're going up a field line. So motion becomes really important. Now, magnetic field therapy, as you said, it's not just about mitochondria. It's about all the other functions of magnetic fields. So here's where I can do the ad, right?
Yes.
The ad for the Supercharge Your Health with PEMF's book. So Supercharge Your Health PEMF Therapy book.
Here's the book.
Talks about all the things that magnetic fields do and how to use them. So when you dial in a PEMF device, you're not picking and choosing what it's going to do. Your body's going to do what it wants to do with the stimulus that you just gave your body. Like when you give your body glucose, you don't control what's going to happen with that glucose in your body. Your body's going to use it in whatever way it knows how to use it.
Yep.
Right? So magnetic fields stimulate ATP. We know that for sure. So when you go back to prevention, there are three kinds of prevention, right? Primary, secondary, and tertiary.
Yes.
Right. So basic epidemiology. So primary prevention is what you were talking about: proper eating, proper sleeping, proper attitudes, proper water. All that's primary prevention. So if you're doing all those right, then you prevent things from happening in the first place. They just don't happen. So medicine's perspective is, because medicine today basically is based on an insurance model. And the insurance model is a catastrophic model. It takes care of catastrophes. That's the purpose of insurance. Insurance is not available, generally speaking, for prevention, because prevention never sleeps, right? You're always preventing at a primary level.
There's no money. There's no money in prevention.
Well, of course, there's no money in it. That's right. But you don't have enough money. There's never enough money. There was an insurance company in Washington State that did an experiment with prevention, and they funded like 4 or 5 different programs. They funded like $5 or $6 million, and they got enrolled people, and they gave them all this money to do all this prevention. It went bankrupt in 6 months. Why? Because it's not catastrophic. It's not a one-time event.
Mm-hmm.
It's something you got to keep doing. Nutrition, you never stop doing nutrition, right? You never stop sleeping. But you can occasionally do acupuncture, you could occasionally do chiropractic, but there's some basic things that you just can't stop doing. So it runs out of money. That means prevention is our responsibility. Primary prevention is our responsibility. So secondary prevention is discovering problems early. That's secondary. So you're preventing it from getting worse. So you discover it early, it doesn't progress. Tertiary prevention is helping to prevent the complications of something that's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
So if you already have diabetes, ideally you want to prevent it in the first place, but if you have it, then you want to prevent it from getting worse, and then you want to prevent the complications of that diabetes. So you got all 3 levels of prevention: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Fortunately, magnetic field therapy does. Which one does it do best?
Oh my gosh. Well, It helps on all levels, but primary prevention, if you're using it before any of these problems happen, it's going to be amazing. It also will help you if you have the disease already. It'll help the tertiary side as well. So you tell me, Bill, which one is it best at? Or is it a trick question? All three?
That's it. That's the answer. All three. Which one is the best? It depends on what you got going on, right? The problem with primary prevention is you don't even know what you're preventing. So you don't know where to put your money because you don't know what you're preventing. Now, if you have a strong family history of something, then you better work harder at preventing that than if you do other things. So the good thing about magnetic field therapy, it works at all three levels of prevention. It works on the disease when it happens. It works on the complications to prevent the complications from happening. Right. So if you're in terms of primary prevention, magnetic field therapy generally lifts all boats. It lifts the whole body on that tide, right? Because it's increasing ATP.
Yep.
So, but the challenge with ATP is you got a nice little device there.
I do.
So what's it going to help?
Well, explain it, Bill.
I know you have, I know you know the answer. The answer is going to help where you put it.
Oh, that's where you're getting at. Yeah, the location that you're putting it on. Yes.
Right. So it's going to help that location the most.
Yes, I move it all around my body, depending on where I want to be stimulating for the day.
I asked you that question about an organ producing a hormone that's then released into the circulation. So if you stimulate that organ, then it'll produce more hormone, and then there's more hormone available in the body in general. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, ATP, because of the way it's generated by the mitochondria, is a local phenomenon. Mm-hmm. Right? It's primarily local. So that means that you have to, in fact, treat the whole body. So ideally, people really need to do whole body magnetic therapy. And whole body magnetic therapy typically is less powerful. The coil is a bigger coil. That means the energy level drops for the same amount of energy output from the control unit. So local will give you stronger action locally, but very little ATP action distally. But because it does so many other things, local stimulation still ends up producing benefits in the rest of the body as well, through circulation, through immune enhancement, and so on. So I think ideally, from a mitochondrial perspective, ideally you really need to be doing whole body and then touch it up with local as you need it.
Yeah, I have goals to have a whole body machine.
We'll work with you on your goals to get a whole body machine.
Yes, I'd love to put my husband in it too. He's a landscape contractor, and he's worked hard labor his whole life, and I know his body will love being inside of one of those every day.
I do consultations on a regular basis, and yesterday somebody told me basically the same thing. She laid down on the system. Well, actually, you tell us your experience at APM. Why don't we share that?
Yeah, so Bill and I were together about a month ago at a medical conference, and he had one of his big full body devices there. And so I like to look cute, and I had these really gorgeous Ferragamo high heels, nice, beautifuls. And I was walking around the conference floor on these for, a couple of days. And so here we were several hours into this particular day, and my feet were hurting, and Bill said, come over here, let's get you on the big unit. Right. So I laid down, and I was sandwiched between two units, and I laid there for about, 30 minutes. We had a wonderful talk about the meaning of life and everything. It was wonderful. And then when I got up, the pain in my feet was gone, but not just that, my energy level was up. Like, so you know how much energy it's draining to be around that many people in the bright lights, standing all day, smiling all day, just on your game. It's a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to hold that much when you're just interacting with people all day long. And I felt so revitalized. I could go on we had a busy evening ahead of us. We had a dinner to go to and everything. And so it was like a full refresher. It was amazing. It truly was.
So one of the comments I frequently make to people, they ask me, well, what's the biggest side effect of PEMF therapy? Do you remember what I said?
Happiness?
Close.
Joy, well, it's just feeling more energy. For me, it was just so much energy. What was the thing?
Well,
Remind
you're
me.
very close, but that's a metaphor. It's the
Tell me
urge
again.
to put on a cape.
That's right. The urge to put on a cape. Yes, that's right. It's the urge because you feel superhuman with this. You do. I felt like I could go through the rest of the day, superhuman power.
Well, and that, fortunately, that doesn't last that long because as we talked about ATP recycles constantly. So you're constantly needing to replenish it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're depleted in ATP, then doing a magnetic field treatment, especially whole body with a reasonable intensity magnetic field, then all of a sudden you're just basically zooming everything up. All the tissues now are making more ATP.
Yes. Yeah. With ATP, you're living paycheck to paycheck.
You're living beat to beat.
Yes. Yes.
You are absolutely living beat to beat.
Yes.
All right. Do you have any final thoughts, final comments to make?
Yeah. So my final, really what I would say is, there's a lot of things that you can do to support your mitochondrial health, to support lowering your risk for chronic disease, to reduce inflammation in your body. And what I would say is investing in your health is it is the most important thing you can possibly do, because without it, you cannot leave a legacy for your family. You cannot be productive in the world. You cannot be fulfilled. If you don't have your health, you truly don't have anything. And what I know from working in the Western model for all these years is what the Western model has to offer is not truly prevention, and it's not even truly healing. It's very reactive, and it's putting Band-Aids on health problems. And investing in your health, investing in working with practitioners who can help you get down to the root cause and solve the problem, investing in devices that help, that you can use over and over and over again for so many conditions, it is so worth it. You will never regret having something like a PEMF device. I have a couple of them in my house. I recommend my clients get them. I'm recommending my family get them. It's just, you got to have an edge in today's world with the amount of toxins we're exposed to. And this helps give you an edge. So that's what I would say is get a device.
And the sooner the better, because I tell people all the time, magnetic field therapy does not raise the dead.
That's right.
So the sooner you start.
Right. So that's a key, that's a key concept. The earlier you start on your healing journey, the better. I mean, you and I both know this, Bill. It's much easier to heal a child than it is to heal a 50-year-old and older. It gets harder and harder and to heal our bodies the longer we wait.
And if nothing else, talk about cosmetics and beauty and ego and vanity.
Yeah.
Well, PEMF therapy works with all of that as well. So instead of aging rapidly, you start to change the aging curve, and it's going to be up higher. When you do all these things, you can't just do PEMF therapy. You can't just do diet. You can't just do gut. You have to look at this as a complex system, and forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for not knowing everything now and not being able to do everything today.
Yeah.
But give yourself a chance. Start somewhere, one step at a time.
The funny thing that comes to mind too is, these things cost us a lot of money, and we replace them every couple years because the technology becomes outdated. You can own a device like this and spend the same amount of money, and it doesn't wear out. It doesn't need to be replaced. It just keeps working. And so really, my last words would be, really take a look at what you spend money on. And that vanity piece brought that to mind. Like, look in your closet and the designer things that you have in there, and the fancy things that you have around your house, and the fancy car, and are you that invested in supporting your wellness and your well-being and your health? And if you're not, I would invite you to reevaluate and start spending on your health.
Well, that's a phenomenal place to leave. But before we do leave, tell people where they can find out more about you, or if you have other resources that you want to point people to, please.
Thank you. Yeah, you can find me at laurafrontiero.com. That's like the great frontier with an O on the end. That's how you spell my last name. You can find me on Instagram at laura.frontiero. And honestly, an amazing resource for all of you is this book and is Dr. Pollack's website. I'm all about supporting what you're doing in the world. I mean, you have spent an entire career, Bill. You don't need to be doing this anymore. You could happily retire right now, but your love for humanity and for healing people and for passing on your knowledge is something that I really admire. And so you want a good resource, go to Bill's website because it is full of information.
And that's drpollack.com.
Yeah.
Which you should have heard by now if you listened to more than just this interview. Well, again, I'm honored to have you share with us. I look forward to meeting you again and learning further from each other.
Absolutely, Bill. Thank you for this opportunity. It's been wonderful.
It's wonderful. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks for joining me on the PEMF Effect. I hope today's conversation gave you new tools, insights, and inspiration to take control of your health. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could benefit from PEMF therapy and holistic healing. Your body has the power to repair, recover, and thrive. Sometimes it just needs the right charge. Until next time, stay curious, stay proactive, and keep powering up to better health.